I'd like to bring out our next panel. Brian, Elmer, and Jack, and Simon, and Tuan. Come on out. We are ready for you.
Hey, Ian, how are you, man?
It's hot. The mic is ready. All right, gentlemen. We're all set.
Thank you. All right. First off, hello, everybody. Yeah, I said hello, everybody. Thank you. We've woken up. All right, great. I know the after parties have been killing everybody. I'm sorry about that. Me too. A few of us as well. There we go. All right. So, utility and NFTs. I'm going to first start off with a brief introduction myself. We're going to slowly go down the panel, get introduced to all the subject matter experts who have graciously donated their time today so we can talk about utility within the space. So my name is Simon Grunfeld, 20 years of fintech. At one point in my life, I was a registered commodity trading advisor, so please don't hold that against me. I do have a regulatory background, and sometimes people do confuse me for a lawyer, which I am not. I build products, and I operate companies, and I just make stuff that makes people happy to use. So that's a little bit about my background. Let me go ahead and introduce some of the people on the panel. Anjan Roy, who's the head of BD at Simba Chain.
Hi, thanks, Simon. Yeah, Anjan Roy, head of BD at Simba Chain. It's an honor to be here and spend time with all of you and my distinguished panelists. Been doing this NFTs, blockchain, a couple of years now. Overall background and throughout tech, consulting. Sometimes I get mistaken for a bodyguard, but I'm not. That's an inside joke. And again, pleasure to meet everyone.
Awesome. Also joining us, Elmer Morales. You are CEO and founder of Campus, right?
Yep.
Go ahead and talk about that.
Hey everyone, I'm Elmer, self-taught coder, been coding for about 20 years now. And I'm running a new venture called Campus DAO. We're a white label metaverse platform that enables brands to launch their own 2D and 3D metaverse that's Web3 enabled. Excited to be here.
And we also have Jack Kochen, the Chief Information Officer of VY Finance.
Hi, yes, thank you for having me, everyone. I'm Jack Kochen, as he said, CIO of ViFi. That's VY, by the way. What we're doing is we're making sure that all of these DEXs that are launching on Cardano, there's currently 5, we're going to be aggregating their yield with a neural net auto harvester. And then we also provide solutions for NFTs to be locked and whatnot so projects can perform IFOs, get their tokens out into liquidity.
Thank you very much. And finally, Brian Stollery, co-founder and CEO of Launch and Webstock. Brian, welcome.
Thank you so much, Simon. Hey, everyone. I'm Brian, founder and CEO of a company called Launch. We are a media and entertainment firm here in New York City. We do a lot of turnkey live streaming and event production. And we are really leveraging NFTs to enhance and incentivize real-life events. And so we also recently started a DAO called Webstock. It is the first NFT community-owned curated music festival. As we like to say, we're taking it off the blockchain, on the block, and our Genesis event was on Monday, and it was a smashing success, and so excited to be here and to see the future.
Thanks, guys. You know, what's interesting about this panel, and for those that have been here all day and you've seen some of the speakers come up here, you're seeing a real good garden variety of different marketplaces. We've got infrastructure, we've got metaverse, we've got finance, we've got art and entertainment and music. So we're very fortunate to really have a really good insight from strong subject matter experts within this field who, yes, to some degree we'll talk, we're going to brag a little bit about some of the things we've done, but I think some of those case studies are very relevant to what some of you are thinking about. If you're participating within the NFT space, if you're just curious, whatever the motivation is, you are a stakeholder and you need to understand how this new medium of non-fungible tokens affects both you and the people that you cater to. Brian, we're going to start with you real quick. I want to kind of get some insights into like a day-to-day. What exactly, how do you guys utilize NFTs and how does that utility come to play with how you're catering to your customers?
Well, usually it's about 18 Twitter spaces a day. Usually it's kind of running around with our heads cut off, trying to have everything come together. But essentially, we use NFTs as ownership of a music festival. And so that's ticketing. Our DAO, every one of our tokens represents 2 votes on everything we do. So if you are an NFT holder of Webstock, You get to vote on who actually performs our festival. So
Is that live? Is that done something that they can do live, or is that sort of like in advance? They can vote in advance?
it's in
figure
advance,
it
yeah.
out? Okay.
So we have a holder-gated thread in our Discord. It's all fully transparent. So we say, here's how much is in the treasury. Here's how much each artist costs. Vote for every artist you want that adds up to this amount, and whatever gets the most votes, that's who performs at the festival. And even going down to like, hey, here's 2 T-shirt designs. Which T-shirt should we use? So every aspect of how we curate events is driven by NFTs, and that's really the utility. And it's a fulcrum moment, and I think leveraging for ownership and access, in addition to authenticating art and media, that's the future, and that's definitely kind of what we're seeing.
You said authentication of art and media. I'm going to jump over here to Anjan real quick. So let's talk infrastructure. Let's talk about some of the things that you're working on with regards to a platform called the Metadata Registry. Maybe you can fill everybody in a little bit. It's really fascinating stuff.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, so Simba Chain comes out of the research community, and several of our co-founders were professors at the Center for Research Computing at Notre Dame. So because of that, we incubate these kind of very powerful, kind of leading edge ideas like many here, and our kind of reason for existence is to make the process easier for whether it be developers, operating companies, platforms, exchanges, others. So metadata registry, something that we've been talking about a lot here at this conference and getting a surprising, even shocking amount of interest. What we saw is that with NFTs, the real value of the NFT, or at least much of it, is embedded in the metadata, right? It's the data about the data. And that is kind of an Achilles heel that we see of NFTs themselves, all right? You've seen kind of, academic studies been out there that, with link rot or links to nowhere, something about, one study came out, said something to the effect of 30 to 40% of all metadata was corrupted, or particularly around the URL link on a particular very, very large NFT platform, which I won't name, but you probably know who they are. And that number is getting worse. We had done our own informal studies that put it at about 20%, and a formal academic study put it at something like 40%. It's an example. So if you look at metadata, it is everything that provides a value is really embedded. Much of that is embedded in the metadata. And so how do you register those changes? How do you track provenance, the history, the ownership, everything that's kind of happened to that NFT over the course of its life? And for many of these NFTs, their lives have hopefully only just started. So looking out into the long term, looking out into the future, how do you preserve that value? So therein, we built the metadata registry, part of a new, a multi-chain way of backing up some of the most critical information for your NFTs, in whatever medium of NFTs they may be, whether it's music, whether it's in the metaverse, whether it's in DeFi. But how do you apply this kind of horizontal technology in a way that adds value across the space? It also adds value in another way, in that this is part of a new division of Simba called Simba Quantum. It's kind of an early name for it. And the reason we call it that is because we can back this up across multiple chains. So the NFT can exist simultaneously in different states.
Very quantum, very physics.
It is.
Yeah.
There's an element of that there.
Right.
And so, not a quantum physicist, nor am I a bodyguard, but that's kind of the kind of the driving force behind it. And the goal here again is that we're furthering value across time in the long game. Not in the short game. The long game is where we see kind of the long game. We're also adding value because in the spirit of Web3, we want to enable interoperability. We want to enable, we know that NFTs in the future are going to cross platforms, all right? They might even cross protocols, right? And how do we prevent a world where there's one or two dominant players in Web3? And I think we're going to be honest with ourselves, there's risk of that. We are at risk of repeating some of the same mistakes in Web 2 and Web 3. If you look at a couple of mega platforms that dominate, we don't want that. I don't think there's anybody in this room that wants that, right? And so how do we proactively do that? And here is an avenue for addressing some of this, because we're furthering both interoperability and we are preserving value to what is being created today to the end. to when the Earth melts.
This is really, really interesting stuff. We still have a few other people we have to talk to, Andrew. So, we're also limited on time. So just hold on for a second, just put a pin on that.
Thank you.
Elmer, metaverses. Okay, so I don't know how many presenters this week were coming from the metaverse, but that number's only growing. It's only getting bigger. I do want to understand NFT utility from your perspective, and maybe you can even start perhaps by talking about some of the legacy platforms, like if we want to mention, Second Life, or we want to mention any of those other guys, and how things have kind of transformed into this space as it is today. Like, what are your thoughts?
Sure. So, when a lot of people hear the term metaverse, they always think 3D, virtual world. But metaverse is, at the core is really a virtual community, a virtual world that can be represented in many different forms, right? So our current platform today, we have what we call a 2D metaverse, which is a virtual world in a web-based traditional delivery that can also render in 3D, right? So one of the things that I like to clarify is that a lot of brands and creators can launch businesses today that leverage metaverse technology, but they don't necessarily have to be 3D only, right? The end users, 3D metaverse technology is not ubiquitous yet. It might take like 5 or 10 years, right? So as we get there, we want to make sure that that web and the 2D experience is still there.
And just to make a point, so if I'm looking to run a metaverse, I would come to you, you would give me a full turnkey solution from start to finish to get me up and running. What is required from me?
That's right. So as a brand, the only thing you would need is to bring your NFTs and your smart contracts to the platform, right? So you might already have, let's say you're the Bored Ape Yacht Club or another collection that's already out there. We can connect to that through the smart contract address. That's really all you need. Everything else is configurable. So we provide all the tools in a easy, to use format. Think of it like a Shopify for the Web3 world.
Okay, interesting.
And then, as you were talking about legacy metaverse.
Sorry to cut you out. So on the Shopify side, so you're saying that we could also run like e-commerce store? I can be selling things that are sort of like non-NFT related?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of our, users and the target audience that we're going for is people or brands that are building, that are using NFT technology to offer some utility, right? That could be online utility or in the real world.
So is that utility tied to like e-commerce? Is it tied to those transactions, and how does that work?
So within the platform, you can offer utility tied to like e-commerce or merch, if you will, that's only available to token holders, right? There's other utility like learning, courses, private communities, and things like that only token holders can access.
I got it. So it's an exclusive offering, limited to just token holders?
Precisely.
And are we talking about NFT token holders or just token, like the DAO holders or things like that?
It can be both, yeah. So for us, a token is any token that lives on the blockchain, whether it's an NFT token, ERC20 token, any of those. So we power a lot of DAOs as well as NFT collections.
To get into a little bit of a technical discussion, what protocols do you currently support?
So today in production, we have Ethereum, Polygon, and Solana, and we have a few others on the roadmap, but
Gotcha.
That's what's live today.
Okay, cool. Jack, you've been sitting there quiet. Sorry about that. I think it's time to talk a little bit. VY Finance and Cardano. Let's talk about that a little bit, the relationship and exactly what is VY Finance, because we've had entertainment and music, we've got metaverse, and we've got infrastructure, and you're the tiebreaker.
All right, so I'll give a quick introduction to the part that's not NFTs, and then we'll go to the more relevant subject. So as I said earlier, we're doing a neural net auto harvester. So we're training a bot to look across the chain for you, find a liquidity pool that's in your risk profile, stake to it, and when that liquidity pool is no longer the best for your risk profile, it will switch. An example could be, let's say you wanted to choose only stablecoin pools. It would then keep up with the best reasonable stablecoin pool, using a lot of comparisons to make sure that, like let's say risk goes through the roof, it would pull you out of that pool and move to the next. That's the auto harvester side of things. The other side of things is that we have NFT vaults. And what these do is these look at NFT as more of the store of value side. And what's nice is that they can be post hoc applied to any project as long as they come onto our platform.
Can you explain a little bit about that, what that means by post?
Yeah, so after the fact, say you have your project, you have an NFT, you want to get a token out with your project, like some projects like Splinterlands, for example. If you wanted to do something like an initial farm offering, or an initial DEX offering, any other way where you're giving it out, more so an initial stake offering rather than DEX, an IFO or an ISO. Users can, well, projects can make it so that they have their NFT on our platform. Users can stake their NFT to our platform and get relevant tokens for what they're staking. They can also stake for other tokens across the Cardano chain. And this is a locked staking mechanism, meaning it's at least, I believe the lowest we ever had was 20, but it's typically 30 to 60 days. The benefits of this over just regular token staking is it's typically less in permanent loss. It's more use case, as now you have tokens being generated either for the platform, for our platform, or another on Cardano. And then the third use case is really more so that now that this token's locked up, that benefits the project as it provides market scarcity. And we've seen that happen so far on the Cardano markets, CNFTs as we call them, JPEG Store, and CNFT.IO. We've seen that happen as a result, especially when you get to the longer vaults.
Right. So you mentioned Cardano. Obviously, there's a ton of protocols out there. I want to try to get your thoughts on A, why Cardano? And then B, what does the future look like for VY Finance as far as other protocols?
The why Cardano question I get very often. And there's two main reasons. One is the UTXO model we're big fans of. For example, let's say you have an unexpected outcome attack, like a flash loan attack. On Cardano, you can handle that unexpected outcome, and you can reject it. Many forms of attack that are EVM-based or find flaws in the EVM are impossible on Cardano, assuming that the developer has taken the steps to ensure that.
Do we want to maybe take 30 seconds and explain flash loan attack and how that works? I'm not sure if everybody does. Anybody want to know what a flash loan attack means? Yeah, can you?
So a flash loan in and of itself is a loan that you take out and pay back in the same transaction, or in just two, depending on the chain. It is very useful for arbitrage. You have a small difference across two stable coins and you want to trade a ton of them. I would never recommend any of you do this. I don't do it myself. But that is a way to go about it. Because you have this loan, it's done, it's in and out very quickly. You could consider it like margin in a way. An attack on flash loans exploits the ability of, I believe this is just a standard EVM issue, where you can make it so that the expected outcome that you're getting back is incorrect. I'm not too privy to the precise details of that, but you'll essentially be draining the faucet from whatever DEX you're using. You'll be draining their account.
Fantastic. All right, very interesting stuff. Brian, let's talk about some of the areas that you're looking to improve within entertainment and music, and some of the areas that you're still trying to get to, haven't gotten there yet, and like what does the horizon look like from your perspective?
So the music industry has historically been inequitable. On average, a recording artist walks away with about 12 cents on every dollar.
12 cents on every dollar.
12 cents on every dollar. That's the average takeaway for an artist.
So this is a royalty issue.
Yes, royalties, payment, remuneration, direct creator to consumer relationships. Essentially, the future of music NFTs is the technology allows artists to essentially be their own record label and have a direct tie to that consumer, so it's not getting sucked up by this web of intermediaries known as the music industry.
Got it. So when you're talking about royalties and the industry and all that, are you referring to this solution as being like a PRO, like a payments rights organization, or something different?
Sort of, yeah. So, especially looking forward in, metaverses and future states of the internet, intellectual property rights management is so messy. And, there's no digital content rights management in the metaverse. So NFTs can actually contain all of the information, all of the data, all the media of a certain artist, such that it can be tracked, it can be managed, it can be monetized, and there's no centralizing body doing it. So now artists can actually represent their intellectual property, their music, their media in the metaverse, in future states of the internet, and that is definitely the future that we're seeing.
I don't come from the music industry or entertainment industry, but actually this is probably a question for both of you guys. When it comes to IP, when it comes to copywriting, that's really that's what the entire industry is based on. Elmer, do you run into IP and or copyright issues with regard to metaverse projects, applications, et cetera? Or is that something that you don't even touch or get exposed to?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to, IP infringement, which is, what you're referring to, we are typically hands-off. We want to think about...
You're a technology company only, and that's it? And
Exactly. We're hands-off. We're not a centralized platform, so we're a provider of technology, but, the brands that are using our tech or using NFT or any other blockchain tech, they run their business however they see fit.
Got it, okay. I assume with you it's different, though.
Yeah, they're essentially containers, So basically, Launch, we have a patent called Launch Lock. It's basically cryptographically ultra-secure containers. So we all know that NFTs basically point to a media asset somewhere in the IPFS. So
like a video file or a media file. In this case, it would be a media file.
It can be a full game.
Right.
It can be a full code.
Yep.
If that goes away, it's gone. So if that physical file disappears from the IPFS, it breaks your NFT. So what we're working on, and I think now that we're at this fulcrum point, we're really looking to leverage this technology in a way that makes sense. So NFTs that are physical containers and actually containing the media rather than pointing to the media.
Right.
And the only way to reconstitute all the media, basically art NFTs are scattered all across the IPFS in jumbled code. The only way to reconstitute them is through having an NFT, a passphrase, biometric, facial recognition, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not perfect, but at least we're hoping this can be some kind of solve for actually stewarding content, in future states of the internet.
In finance, okay, so again, I have a bit of a background when it comes to regulatory and compliance, but Jack, do you run into anything regarding, I know when it comes to IP and licensing, this doesn't affect you, you're in a completely different area, but as far as like identity management, okay, or just proving somebody is who they are when they're about to interact with your platform, like what steps do you guys take and how do you maintain, I guess, sanctity of both the service and the funds?
Well, firstly, as a DeFi, most of it is not KYC. So,
okay, yeah.
But there are parts like fiat on-ramps and certain things that will be totally 100% CFI, centralized finance. And those things will be using some sub. That's who Binance and many other people use. They're pretty good. They hold your information for, I think, 3 to 6 months for some legal reason, God forbid anything happens. And then they get rid of it. So that's pretty satisfactory. That being said, one thing that benefits, let's say I just want to find you as the wallet. That's been an issue on Cardano.
Me as the, what do you mean?
Like you staked to the platform, not your identity, just your wallet.
Okay, so I'm connecting right now with my wallet, my MetaMask, my Coinbase, whatever it is. I'm connected. Go ahead.
Now, and especially with the soon hard fork that's happening to Cardano, I can track who you are through EUTXOs. And that's a pretty reliable way to go about tracking. If you ever look at them, it's a very jumbled transaction with a lot of change receipts and whatnot. But when you get through into smart contracts and you can actually track that, it's very reliable. You can tell who's who for a long history, and that also doesn't, the transaction history isn't explosively transparent.
Okay, fair enough. But when you say you can tell who's who, I mean, is that to a really good degree of certainty, or because there's still a level of anonymity?
You can tell whose wallet is whose.
You can tell whose wallet
Yeah.
is whose. Okay, fair enough. Okay.
Because, that being said, as a DeFi, we are hoping for anonymity, and we're based in Australia, which really helps our ability to offer the anonymity. No KYC, none of that.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And can you explain the license type that you have in Australia?
Yeah, so right now, we are an ACN, which is an Australian company, and we're working with ASIC. So Vi Finance is owned by a proprietary trading firm that I also own. That's how we did it. It's the best way to do that in Australia. That's currently going to get its hedge fund license from ASIC, their equivalent of the SEC. And when that happens, we'll become more of then we can deal with money more straightforward. We'll even be able to offer users the ability to stake to the hedge fund without KYC.
This is fantastic stuff. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to thank everybody, Brian, Jack, Elmer, Anjan. Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Thank you, Simon.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, guys, thank you
stuff,
so
man.
much. Let's
Thank you.
give the panel a hand. You guys should
Thank
see
you.
your. We're on the.